are you? I got to share with a lot of you tonight a bottle of 2008, a 3-liter Sanford and Benedict Chardonnay. I think Jim was probably one of the best white wine producers in California. And his Burgundian style that he pushed from the beginning. And I was around him in the early 80s when we were just inventing this idea of what we have going on here in the Santa Rita Hills in Santa Barbara County. And Jim was located up at the Bienocido Vineyard. They, of course, gave him a place to have a winery, and he helped make that vineyard famous. And Jim was one of those people that he defended his friends, and if you were his friend, he defended you to a fault. And he was so he made very little wine from the Santa Rita Hills. But I tell you, he made some of the greatest Chardonnays in California from this vineyard. And we got to share the 2008 tonight. And the day after he passed, we had a bottle of 1992 out of just a 750 milliliter bottle. And we tasted the wine. We thought, wow, it's alive. It's still there. But it wasn't necessarily memorable when we opened the bottle. But a half an hour later, it sprang open to all these aromas, and it just came alive. And we just at awe. I've always been at awe at what Jim brought to all of us. The culture. He challenged every one of us. He was a perfectionist, and he could never do good enough, and none of us could ever do good enough. It was always a challenge that he put forth to us. And he was such a leader to me. He brought all the ideas from Burgundy and all over the world. Jim was a little younger than me, but I always considered him my elder because he had so many wine years. He had been in more harvest in South America and North America and Burgundy and everywhere. And he had been to almost every important winery in the world. And he also knew every important chef in America and Europe and Southeast Asia. I mean, the man was, you just couldn't stop him until in May. He didn't wake up from a sleep, and he's gone. So hard for us to believe. Yeah. But his wines will live forever, and his memory and what he taught us and what he got us on the road to do. I really think that Jim was as important as any winemaker in California. But Jim would, it's like, okay, what would Jim say? What would Jim be doing here? He'd tell us why we were here, how everybody was important. And we're here to honor the pioneers of the Santa Rita Hills. And in a way, Jim was one of those, but he was more at his home base in Santa Maria. Mm-hmm. But the rest of us, what Jim would say is, and we got to practice this just a little bit with Archie McLaren of the Central Coast Wine Classic. Man. Archie choreographed his own last chapter, and we got to do final dinners with Archie and get to say things that we would say after somebody was gone while Archie was still alive. And I realized right then it was time for me to thank Jim Clendenen for everything he had given me, and for all of us to thank each other for what we've got to experience over these last 40 years in this business. There was nothing here before, and we were part of the creation. I was always a follower all along the way, and I followed Jim, and I followed Richard, and I followed all of you guys, and then we follow each other. And then the next generation comes and challenges us, and then the generation after that. And what we've gotten to experience is the graciousness that I feel for what we've got to experience here, and got to be around Jim Clendenen and all these guys at the head table. I will, we will just toast all of you guys and Jim, and remember all of this forever. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Cheers. Thank you, Frank. I think you just brought up a really good thing,
Sounds
which is
good.
my new religion. What would Jim do?
Yeah. What would Jim do?
Jim Clendenen taught me something, which is a bottle of wine is an investment to keep the people we love at table for an extra hour every day. There was a quote at that wake, and I'm going to call it a wake, and there was no moment of silence because Jim wouldn't have put up with that shit.
Right.
What did Jim say? He said, in California, I learned to use wine equipment. In Australia, I learned to fix it and make it better. And in France, I learned I didn't need it fucking to use it anyways.